If you're starting a nonprofit and you need to figure out what account you need, this is the video for you. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, it's Tiffany with Boss on a Budget. I help new and small nonprofits get up and running. So if you need help, make sure you subscribe to this channel because I teach all the time on nonprofit startup and how to raise money when you're starting from $0. And today I just wanted to do like a quick video to give a rundown of 5 different accounts you should consider opening when you are starting a nonprofit. This one's going to go quick, but make sure you watch the entire video because I'm going to share 5 different types of accounts. And at the end, I'm going to give you a bonus tip that you should be mindful of if you're starting a nonprofit. You guys ready? Let's get into it. And if you need help starting your nonprofit, you need to know the process, you need something to guide you through that process, make sure you purchase my nonprofit startup workbook. It has over 10 worksheets that covers different areas of things you should be covering in your first year, things you should be doing in that first year. So the first account I'm going to talk about is your bank account. When you are operating a nonprofit, you need to make sure that you have a separate bank account that's separate from your personal account. You don't want to commingle those funds. The nonprofit is a completely separate corporation, and you want to make sure you have a business account. And there are some banks that have special types of accounts. So they may have a special nonprofit type of account, like a checking and a savings account, or they may have like a discount on their fees or something if you are a nonprofit. Now, banks are different, okay? So what one bank expects of you to be able to fill out an application for an account may be different from the other bank. So this is very, very specific. So you may come on here and be like, okay, Tiffany, if you're telling me I need a bank account, which bank? I really can't tell you which bank to go with, but I will say try to make sure you are attached to a local bank. And the reason why I'm saying that is because a local bank can give you certain opportunities from funding. Banks often have like separate trust or community funds that they have that they can give out to local nonprofits, or they may be required. There are some credit unions that are required to do community giving. So make sure you're connected to some kind of community bank if you can be. Definitely if you can have an account with them, make sure you are connected that way. But even if you want to find somebody on your board who works at a community bank or who's affiliated with one of those banks, that works too. But I said all that to say, you want to make sure you have a separate business account set up for your nonprofit so your transactions are flowing through that separate account. You want to make sure that if you're paying for things for the nonprofit, that you do that within that account. Now, I like to anticipate questions because I know y'all going to come in here and ask me questions. You're probably going to ask me, okay, what can I write off since I'm buying things for the nonprofit? My advice to you is talk to an accountant because everybody's tax situation is different, right? So I can't tell you, first of all, I'm not an accountant and I'm not your accountant, so I cannot give you any specific tax advice. But you want to know advice for your personal situation based on your circumstances. You want to be able to give specifics when you get advice, especially when it comes to taxes. So I really recommend you talk to someone in your area who knows your personal situation. But generally, you can donate to your nonprofit. And that will count as a donation, and you can submit a donation receipt for your donations because you will be just like any other donor. So just keep that in mind. The second type of account you should consider is a mailbox account. So I'm using the word account just to say like a service or an account. It could be either or. So you want to think about having a mailbox or having like a virtual address, where instead of using your home address on your business paperwork, you are using a separate address and you can then send your mail to that address. Now, there are different caveats to this, so just keep this in mind. You can do this with certain UPS stores, and there are also postal mailbox stores that will give you an address that you can use, and you can have a box there and they can receive mail for you. One of those services in particular I am affiliated with is iPostal. I'm dropping my affiliate link below. Just keep in mind, if you do purchase a mailbox, I do benefit from that, so I want to put a disclosure out there, but they have locations all across the world. So if you're looking for like a mailbox or a place to receive your mail, you may want to consider that as a service. I want you to know that Once you submit your application for 501c3 status, so you're submitting either the 1023 EZ or the 1023 form. If you don't know what those are, make sure you check out this video I'm linking above. But once you submit those forms, you're going to have to put an address on there. So my question to you is, do you want your personal home address on there? Or do you want a different address? All right, so just keep that in mind when you are filling out your paperwork. So one service you may want to think of using is getting a mailbox. It's sometimes called a virtual address. So again, that you can get somebody to receive mail for you, receive packages, and receive official documentation. The third type of account or service you should think about is insurance, okay? So just like with my answers to like your questions around taxes or your questions around like legal things, I'm going to always say I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an accountant, and so I'm going to say this as well. I'm not an insurance broker. So when people have questions about what insurance they should get, you need to talk to a broker because they have a list of questions. They can assess your situation and they can decide whether or not you need to pursue a certain type of coverage. And there are all different types of coverage, and it also depends on the company, right? So I want to throw some things out there just so you know as you approach this, because some people may not be thinking about insurance. As you're watching this video, you may be like, oh, I didn't even know I needed it. If you're engaging with the public, generally you need insurance for your nonprofit. So you may need general liability insurance that covers like general liability concerns. You should think about director and officers insurance. It's also called D&O insurance, and that covers your board of directors and key officers of the organization. You may want to consider car insurance. If you are transporting people in company cars, you may want to consider car insurance. If you are dealing with young people, you really need to consider what your insurance looks like in terms of like sexual assault protection and things like that. If you are dealing with volunteers, you want to make sure that your insurance covers the actions of your volunteers as well. And when you're thinking about like how much coverage you should need or trying to figure out if you even need coverage, one thing that can be like a guide for you is the requirements of a contract or a grant, right? Because sometimes a grant or you doing business with a particular funder means that you have to acquire certain insurance. So that can give you a signal about what type of insurance you should have if you're not sure what you should be going after. And there are things like cyber insurance. There's all kinds of insurance. There's event insurance. So maybe you want to be insured just for one day, just for one particular event. Your general liability may cover that, or you may need to get separate insurance. There's so many different things you want to think about. And I know you don't want to think negatively like, what if something happens? I should get covered. Like, people don't want to think in that negative way. But you need to protect yourself. You have to remember, this is an actual business. You went to the Secretary of State's office. You signed paperwork. You signed official paperwork. That means it's an official business. So you really should be thinking about how to protect your business and how to protect the people who are working in and around your business. The fourth type of account is an email account. All right. So I'm gonna break this down a couple of different ways. I talk about this in a couple of other videos. I think I talked about it in my How to Start a Nonprofit video. If you have not checked out that 40-minute video, it is by far the most popular video on my channel. So I'm linking it above. Make sure you watch it. But I talk about the importance of having your own domain as a nonprofit. What is a domain? Your domain is your address on the internet. Where do I go when I type www. What comes after that? That is your domain on the internet. And sometimes when people get started, when they set up like their email accounts and things like that, they set up Gmail accounts or they're using Yahoo accounts. And I want you to get out of the practice of doing that. And I want you to get into the practice of using your actual domain and having an email address at that domain. So you want to have like an info@mynonprofit.com as an example, right? You want to have that. So when you publicly share information, when you're sending out your pitch decks and when you're sending out partnership emails and when you're sending in and applying for grants, You don't want to put a Gmail account on there. You want to put your domain address on there. It makes you look more credible. It makes you look more official. And honestly, it does not take a lot of work to get your own email. You can at least get one. And if you sign up for Google Workspace and you are a 501c3 nonprofit, then you can get your emails for free through Google. So there really isn't a lot of barriers to getting your own email, right? So if you're using Gmail or Yahoo right now, I want you to put a plan in place to get your domain first. Make sure you have the right domain that matches your website, if at all possible, right? And then I want you to go ahead and sign up for emails for yourself and any other staff that are working for your organization. The last kind of account you want to think about is a phone account or a phone service. And when I say phone, I mean like a separate business phone. All right. So having a separate number that distinguishes your personal versus your business. I personally like to use a business number because I don't want business calling on my personal number. I need that line to be drawn, right? So there are different options that you can use for a business phone. One option is just to use an app to ring to your same phone, but you're using a different kind of number. Like you're using a different number than your personal phone. So Google Voice is a popular app that people use where you can assign a different number to your real number and people can call it and actually get through to you through the app. That is one way you can get a separate number for your business, but you could also set up virtual phone boxes, virtual voicemails, things like that to look even more official. It gives you more options, like if you want to do forwarding or more fancy things with your phone. You may consider signing up for a business phone account. One company that I am familiar with, that I have spoken with, is called Nextiva. I'm also interested in exploring a Nextiva account as I move forward with my business. I have a Google Voice number, full disclosure. I like to be honest with y'all on here, but I'm thinking of moving to like an official, actual like number for my business that's not Google Voice, because Google Voice is cool and it's free, but it's just not, it doesn't feel as official as I want it to. So if you're interested in checking out Nextiva, I also have a special link below. I may benefit if you sign up for the services, so I also want to give you that disclosure as well. Before I give my bonus tip, I just want to share something really quickly. Some of the accounts that I just mentioned are non-negotiable. Like you need a business bank account. You need to be thinking about insurance, right? You need an email. And then some of the other ones, like your phone, may not be. So I want you to consider like what phase you're in your nonprofit before you rush and jump and do everything. Sometimes you got to phase it in. Sometimes things got to be sequenced, right? So you may not be ready for a phone, like an official business phone where you're paying a monthly fee right now. And it may just need to be Google Voice while you're paying for other things or while you're getting other things set up, right? So I didn't want to mention some of these accounts or some of these services just to say you have to get them for all of them, right? But think about like how you want to phase that in. Don't just rush to get everything, because this is what happens when people start businesses and people start their nonprofits. Oh, I'm gonna get this, I'm gonna get this, and I'm gonna get pins, and I'm gonna brand this, and I'm gonna do all this. And you get so excited at doing all of that stuff. And then you look around and you got like 5 different accounts that are pulling out monthly. You don't want to put yourself in that situation. That's all I'm saying, is just think about how you want to sequence in things that you have to pay for, and only start with the things you absolutely need. And then you'll get there. You'll grow. You just heard me say I still use a Google Voice number. And just now I'm thinking about moving to Nextiva. So just think about that as you're making decisions about not just the accounts I mentioned, but other accounts that you may consider. The bonus tip I wanted to tell you was around your business credit. I think some people are confused about nonprofits. They don't think that nonprofits can make certain moves that other businesses can make, and you can. So some people don't think that nonprofits can take out loans or nonprofits can build their credit file, and that's not true. Like some people don't think you can do that, but you can. So the first thing you need to make sure you do is make sure you have a DUNS number. I did a video on this before. I'm linking it above so you can have a general overview of what that is. But that number is sort of like a social security number for your business, and it basically tracks your credit to that number. Your credit is attached to that number, your business credit. So when you begin to set up business accounts and you begin to build your credit profile, then other businesses or banks that may want to give you funding can check your business credit profile, right? So what you want to do is, first of all, make sure you have a DUNS number, and you want to make sure that you sign up for certain accounts where you can build up your credit history as a business, right? So there are certain businesses that allow you to pay over time. Like you can set up a credit account where you can buy something and then they'll let you pay in 30 days. So if you set up certain accounts and then you pay that over 30 days, you begin to have a history of paying things on time through credit. So it's also important to be thinking about business credit as a nonprofit, just as important as it is for you personally and for maybe your for-profit business. Don't forget about that for nonprofits as well, especially when you're thinking about applying for a loan and going to a bank and accessing capital. You just want to think about your business credit file as well. So I hope this video was helpful. Make sure you check me out at www.bossonabudget.com, and I will see you in the next video.